that we plan to do this morning is to teach you an alternative practice. Not alternative in the sense that you do it instead of the Vipassana practice that we're teaching, but alternative in the terms of supplementary. It is said of the Buddhist tradition that it has two main wings, wisdom and compassion. The Vipassana practice will develop both of those in anyone who sincerely works with it. However, there is also in the tradition some auxiliary practices that are designed to develop what they call 4 beautiful mind states, or the 4 Brahma Viharas, the 4 heavenly abodes, however you want to work with that word. And these 4 beautiful mind states are what they call in Pali Metta, which is translated loving kindness, an understanding of care for others very similar to Christian agape. The second is Karuna, our compassion. The third is Mudita, our sympathetic joy. And the fourth, Upekkha, our equanimity. I'm going to say just a few words about each. Most commonly, when people do practices that are directly designed to develop these beautiful mind states, they work with the meditation on metta, our loving kindness. And that sort of incorporates the other 3. And we will be giving you a guided metta meditation this morning after I say these few words. What they say in doing Vipassana meditation is that sometimes one can engage in other activities for a very brief time that protect the practice. What I mentioned to you last night about making your act of surrender before you start each sitting is one of the things we can do to protect our practice. It puts us in a frame of mind that motivates us to want to continue to do this, to want to let that work be done in us as we continue to sit. So the act of surrender is one important protection. Some people of a different bent of mind find as protection such things as reflection on death, or reflection on the beautiful qualities of a particular spiritual teacher or incarnation. Some find the meditation on loving kindness or metta to be a very good protection for their practice because it is to have the effects of softening the heart, putting us in this frame of mind of embracing all that is with loving kindness. They say that you can take about up to 5 minutes of each of your Vipassana sittings for protection. And that would mean these kinds of reflections, doing a little bit of metta meditation, making your act of surrender, or whatever else will protect your practice. It could be a brief form of prayer, other prayer that you want to engage in, up to about 5 minutes of each sitting for protection. This is not required. You need not do it if you don't like to do it either. It's just offered as something that some people find useful. Some others have told me that they find right after the Eucharist is a beautiful time for them to take a few minutes to do metta meditation. So if you choose to do it, you can choose yourself how you're going to work it in. But do understand it is not Vipassana practice. It's not the main practice we're here to do, and it's a protection that we use a little bit of. Metta is a concentrative exercise of calling down blessings or benedictions. There are a few rules, very few, but they're important ones, about how we do metta. The first rule is that we start with ourselves. That is our primary responsibility. This is what we're most responsible for in our life. So we start by calling these blessings or benedictions down on ourselves. Then we move out from ourselves till eventually we're calling these blessings down on all beings everywhere. You can move out from yourself in a variety of different ways. You can do it geographically, going from yourself to all beings in this room, to the place, to a city, to a county, to a state, to a country, to a continent, to a hemisphere, to the earth. I mean, those are a lot of steps to put in. One would be doing an awfully long metta, but you always end with all beings everywhere. So that's one of the rules. The second rule is that any time you do metta, you use the same blessings at every layer or level at which you call it down. So the same blessings you wish for yourself are the ones that you wish with each successive group of beings upon whom you call down the benedictions. You can use any blessings that you want, and the next time you go to do metta, you might want to use different ones. You don't have to choose one that you stay with forever. It's just for any given time that you do it. You use the same benedictions for everyone. A third rule is that you're supposed to be comfortable when you do metta. That means if you are getting uncomfortable, do move to make yourself comfortable. Some people do metta meditation lying down. You can lie, you can sit, you can stand, you can walk. You can do metta in any posture you want, but you should be comfortable. Simple rules, just the three. Begin with yourself, move outward to end with all beings everywhere. Use the same blessings or benedictions for everyone who's included in a particular metta meditation, and be comfortable. Some people don't like themselves, and they don't find it an easy place to start to try to develop feelings of loving kindness to begin with themselves. There's a practice that one can begin metta with a minute or so of that helps with that. To develop that appropriate respect and care for yourself, if you don't like yourself very much, take a minute to recall things about yourself that you can celebrate. A kind act here, refraining from doing something over there. If you can't think of anything else, you can think of the fact that you're here, that you made the choice to take this time in your life to be here. It does not matter, though, if you don't feel warm fuzzies. It's very pleasant when that happens when you're doing metta, but that's not necessary. All that's necessary is that you intend to mean the blessings that you call down. Just have the intention of meaning them. And there have been some people who have said to me, well, is it okay if I intend to intend? I'm not really sure I want to mean them, but is it okay if I want to mean them? At whatever level you can reach, that's okay. It's not something to get anxious or nervous about. I want to briefly explain a few other ways you can move out from yourself to others, and then we'll move on to the meditation itself. Some people move out psychologically rather than geographically, starting with oneself, then with benefactors and parents, other members of one's family, friends. Can include enemies with friends also, because they're about the same psychological difference from us in terms of emotional investment. Then on to people that you work with, people that you serve, people you see around you every day, like the same people riding the bus or whatever. If you're moving out psychologically, you also eventually end with all beings everywhere. And then finally, there's one special way you can use it to work with a problem relationship. Start with yourself, then call the blessings down on one particular benefactor of yours, someone for whom you have pretty unalloyed positive feelings, someone who's just sheer done good for you. Then call the blessings down on a friend. We mostly have positive feelings toward our friends, but there's always rough times that enter into any friendship that has any depth. So yourself, a benefactor, a friend, then a neutral person. If you do that some on retreat, it can be someone you see across the room whom you don't know. I mean, you have absolutely no real feelings of any kind toward that person. Out in ordinary daily life, it can be someone you see frequently on a bus that you ride or in a supermarket, just someone you don't have any particular connection with. And then finally, the person that you're having trouble with. So yourself to a benefactor, to a friend, to a neutral person, and then finally the person you're having problems with, and then of course all beings everywhere, and you end it. Now, since to actually do a little bit of it gives a much better feel than talking about it, you'll do a little bit of it.
If you would just take a few moments and get in touch with the breath. Just be aware of the breath. And then focus your awareness in the area of your heart, where feelings of loving kindness come forth. And try to get in touch with the feelings of loving kindness that you have in your heart. And begin to feel loving kindness toward yourself. And picture yourself, if you wish, one way of picturing yourself, or just of imagining loving kindness coming toward yourself. And call down these 4 benedictions upon yourself. Or you may choose others if you wish. May I be at peace. May I feel loved. May I be free from suffering. May I reach the fullness of union with God. And as you say these benedictions to yourself, just imagine and send loving kindness to yourself. May I be at peace. May I feel loved. May I be free from physical and mental suffering. May I reach the fullness of union with God. May I be at peace. May I feel loved. May I be free from mental and physical suffering. May I reach the fullness of union with God. Now in touch with that same loving kindness, those feelings towards yourself, let's give it to all those here in this room. That just as we desire to have peace and to feel loved and to be free from suffering and to be united to God, let's send that loving kindness to everyone in this room. May you be peaceful. May you feel loved. May you be free from mental and physical suffering. May you reach the fullness of the love of God. May you be peaceful. May you feel loved. May you be free from mental and physical suffering. May you reach the fullness of union with God. May you be peaceful. May you feel loved. May you be free from suffering. May you reach the fullness of union with God. And now send that loving kindness coming from the heart to all those people here at Good Counsel. Just imagine the loving kindness flowing onto all those here at Good Counsel, all the sisters, the staff, all those people on this hill. May you be peaceful. May you feel loved. May you be free from all mental and physical suffering. May you know the fullness of the love of God. May you be peaceful. May you feel loved. May you be free from physical and mental suffering. May you reach the fullness of union with God. And now send that same loving kindness to all those in the state of Minnesota. May you be peaceful. May you feel loved. May you be free from mental and physical suffering. May you reach the fullness of union with God. Allowing that loving kindness to flow out to all those in Minnesota. May you be peaceful. May you feel loved. May you be free from suffering. May you reach the fullness of union with God. And now, if you would just extend that loving kindness to all beings, everywhere. Just allow that loving kindness to reach out, to touch the hearts of all beings. May you be peaceful. May you feel loved. May you be free from mental and physical suffering. May you reach the fullness of union with God. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings feel loved. May all beings be free from mental and physical suffering. May all beings reach the fullness of union with God. May you be peaceful. May you feel loved. May you be free from suffering. May you reach the fullness of union with God. Just allow that loving kindness to extend to all beings. As Mary Jo said, this is a tremendous way, especially to work with a difficult relationship and to grow towards greater reconciliation.
Now we're going to expand the Vipassana practice just a little bit. We're going slow in the beginning because to establish a solid basis of concentration is very, very important. I'm going to repeat some of the basic instruction to be sure that everybody understands it. You want to sit with your spine erect, with your shoulders over your hips. It's easier if your hip bone is higher than your knee bone. To be sure that your shoulders are not scrunched up around your neck and that your head isn't hanging forward. Slightly tucking the chin helps. You will focus on watching the breath at the place where you have chosen, either because it was the most clear, or you were attracted to it, or you simply wound up choosing it. Having your awareness inside the sensations where the upper lip meets the nostrils, or in the chest, or in the diaphragm. Noting in and out at the beginning of each inhalation and exhalation if you're watching at the nostrils. Noting rising and falling at the beginning of each inhalation and exhalation if you're watching at the chest or the diaphragm. The awareness should be very close inside the sensations at the place where you're watching the breath, so that you feel across the length of the breath the changing pattern of sensations. The closer you bring your attention, the more you see. The more subtle your experience of the breath becomes, the more faint. The closer you have to bring your attention to be able to stay with it, and the deeper your concentration becomes. The mental noting should start as soon as you become aware that the experience has started. Not before, because then it becomes a command to your body to breathe. Not lagging after, but concurrent with the awareness that the inhalation and exhalation have started. Since the major distraction that most people will experience is thinking, we're going to refine our noting a little bit. And when you become aware of the fact that you are thinking, note thinking. If your awareness is very close, you will be able to see that when you become aware that you've been lost in thought and note it, that stops the thought. Thought's a very wispy sort of thing. For the most part, we can't be engrossed in thinking and aware of the fact that we're thinking at the same time. When we think, we're creating an alternative world to the world of our basic experience. And when we get lost in that alternative world, we are indeed lost to our basic experience. But when we become aware that that is going on, that alternative world crumbles and dies under the light of that awareness. It might start again right away, but in that instant when we see that we're thinking and we note thinking, it dies and we go back to the breath. Anything else that occurs that distracts you from the breath, continue to note it as wandering, because at this point it is wandering from the primary object, and then go back to the breath as you note the wandering. So you will be noting and watching the breath. You will note thinking when you become aware that you are thinking. It will die. You will come back to the breath. This all happens very quickly, the dying of the thinking as you note it. And you'll also be noting wandering when the mind goes off of the breath to anything else. Attention very close to the breath. If you're wandering, go back to the breath. I'd like to ask if there are any questions about doing the practice that you've been taught so far. Mm-hmm. For right now, simply note it as wandering. There are two very common things that we do with watching the breath that get us off being inside the sensations. One is the idea of like we're looking down at it from up here. The second is that we create, sometimes like off to the side up here or out there, we create an image of the breath, and we find that instead of being inside our sensations, we're in outer space watching some image that we've flung out there. And we can do this for a long time before we become aware of it. On my first long retreat, I was doing that for so long before I became aware that I was doing it. Just at this point, whenever one becomes aware of watching an image rather than being inside the sensations, simply note it as wandering. There will be other ways for working with that later. And just as soon as the awareness that anything other than being inside those sensations is going on, note it and go back to that breath awareness. Anything else? It's time to talk about walking meditation. The walking meditation is an integral part of this practice. I want to start out saying that up front because many people come to look at it as, well, if we can't just sit all day long, so it's something we do to fill in time. Not so. The balance between the sitting and the walking meditation is the way we get the proper balances of energy, concentration, and mindfulness going in the practice. And over 2,500 years, this has been skillfully developed to help people get that proper balance. So please look upon the walking meditation as an important, integral part of the practice. It and the sitting meditation each, and the things we'll be talking about doing in between pretty soon, they all contribute to the balance that we want on this retreat. One of the main functions of the walking meditation is to rebuild energy. And I imagine there's not a person in this room who hasn't had the experience that if your energy's starting to flag in the late afternoon, if you take a brisk 15 or 20-minute walk, you can find yourself really renewed. Putting out energy can build and increase energy. However, we generally don't walk extremely briskly in this practice. Everything becomes slowed down enough, the metabolism even slows down, that walking at a moderate pace gives us the kind of energy that we need. When we do the walking meditation, it will be done in 3 parts. And you can start out making these parts roughly of equal lengths. But there are times when to do more of the faster part of it is appropriate. Some of these times are if you're feeling very lethargic or sleepy. There's times when doing more of the very slow part is appropriate, when the mindfulness and the energy are very sharp and bright and high. Doing more of the very, very slow walking is useful. You get a feel for yourself in doing it about what is appropriate in terms of a balance between these 3 parts. Also, sometimes a teacher will suggest to you that you do more or less of one or the other to get the balance right. When we're doing the more rapid part of the walking meditation, you're going to be walking at close to a normal rate of speed. To begin your walking meditation, you find yourself in an area that's roughly 10 to 20 feet in length, and you're going to walk back and forth across that same space. To anticipate the question that always comes, well, couldn't I decide I'm going to walk to that building over on the other side and back? What difference would it make? You set yourself a space that's 10 to 20 feet long. The mind very quickly catches on, I'm not going anywhere. And it settles into the process of actually doing the formal walking practice. When we have a goal in mind, there'll always be that little pull or tug toward the goal that detracts from settling into doing the walking practice. When you're walking at this near normal rate of speed for the beginning, you start out simply noting one note for each step that you take. And it can go something like right, left, right, left, right, left. Or if you have right-left confusion, which some people have, and that's going to require a lot of thinking to try to keep it sorted out, you can simply note step, 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 step. You note to help keep your mind anchored on the task. What your attention is going to be focused on are the sensations in the moving leg. When you're walking at this fastest rate of speed, it's very possible that the only sensation you'll be able to pick up will be the feeling of pressure and hardness as you're putting your foot down. And that's quite okay. If you just are alternating your awareness between the feeling of the pressure and hardness as you're putting your right foot down and then your left and then your right. But that's where the awareness is to be centered, in what you can feel in the moving leg. When you get to the end of the area that you have set out for yourself, you stop. You become aware of the feel of your whole body standing there, and you note standing, just feeling the whole body as you note that. You can gauge how long you want to do this, a second or two, up to 5 to 10 seconds, whatever feels right to stand there standing, just feeling the feel of your body standing. Then you're going to turn around and go back as you are aware that you're starting the turning movement, which will probably start in your shoulders before your feet are doing anything. As the turning movement starts, note turning and feel throughout the turn, feel your body turning. Be aware of the whole body, feeling it turning. Then you're facing back to go back across the area you just walked. You go back to your noting right, left, right, left, right, left until you stop and note standing again, and then you'll note turning as you turn. Roughly a third of the walking period, you'll be doing this. You may do whatever you wish about holding your hands. Some people hold them folded across their chest, some clasped behind, some people put them in their pockets, some just let them hang by their sides, whatever's comfortable. And at different walking periods, you may want to do different things with your hands. That's okay. There's two things you're not going to do. Your hands should not be moving. That's a distraction from watching the sensations in your legs, so you should be holding them. They should be in a steady pose, however you decide to hold them. And don't be shifting how you're holding them a lot through the walking period. If it gets distinctly distracting the way you're holding them, and you've been holding them one way, you want to switch to another way, okay, but don't be moving them around a lot during the period, because that's very distracting to what you're trying to do. After you've done your period of fast walking, you're going to slow down. And for every step, you'll be making two notes. You'll note lifting and placing, lifting, placing, lifting, placing, lifting, placing, until you get to the end and stop and note you're standing. Try to be aware of at least two different kinds of sensations in each step, what the lifting feels like and what the placing feels like. The placing, again, may again be just only that feel of pressure and hardness as you're putting your foot down, but see what you can feel in your leg while you're lifting it. I can give you a hint that for many people, the easiest place to feel something is right above the kneecap, because these muscles here are at work for the lifting of your leg. But you might feel something in other places. There's no one place to look, but the point is to feel whatever sensation you can feel in the leg as you're doing the lifting movement. You will be going slower when you're doing this, of course, than you are when you're just going left, right, left, right, left, right. So this is the medium speed part of the walking meditation. Then finally, you get down to the slowest part. You can go as slow as you can maintain your balance. Don't try to go over slow, don't push it, but on the other hand, if you feel drawn to go very, very slow and get very, very engrossed in the movements of the moving leg, the sensations in that leg, that's fine. Just don't go so slow that you can't maintain your balance. Taking very short little steps makes it easier to stay balanced than taking very long, large ones. And you're going to make at least 3 and maybe 4 notes for this part of the practice. If you're going to do 3-part noting, you note the lifting, you note the moving. This is when you'll be balanced on one leg, the moving part, and the placing. The first step should be completely finished before you start the second. That means there will be a period of time when both feet are flat on the ground. This is not the ordinary way we walk. Usually, as the front one is coming down, the heel of the back one is coming up. You want both feet fully flat on the floor before you start the next step. And then it's lifting, moving, placing. And you'll feel the sensations of the lifting movement, of the moving movement, and of the placing. Separate, distinct, just like the difference between the in-breath and the out-breath, the difference between the lifting, the moving, and the placing. Again, watching the sensations in the moving leg. If you find that you're constantly lifting the heel of the back leg before you're completely finished with the step, or if you simply prefer, you can do 4-part noting. This tends to make the whole process a little slower. Some people prefer it even though they can do the 3-part without lifting up the heel of the back. If you're going to do the 4-part, you do lifting, moving, placing, shifting. Putting that step in of shifting your weight forward So it forces you to have both feet flat on the ground at the same time. So lifting, moving, placing, shifting. Again, for both this middle part and this slow part, when you come to the end of the length that you've marked out, you stop, you note standing, feeling your whole body standing there, and as soon as your shoulders start to turn against turning around, as soon as you become aware that you're beginning that turning movement, note turning and feel the turning movement in your body. There's some common questions about walking meditation to answer before they're even asked. If your mind wanders from the sensations in the leg, in the moving leg, while you're doing this practice, simply bring your awareness back. If something is persistently distracting you, at this point, the only other things that you're noting would be thinking or just a generic wandering. But if something is distracting you so much that your mind is constantly being drawn away from the sensations in the moving leg, stop walking, note what is distracting you, then draw your attention back to the leg you're going to start with and start walking again. We don't note anything else when we're moving. If we can let go of a distraction and go back to the sensations in the moving leg, we simply do that without stopping. But if something is persistently pulling us away, we stop, we note it, and then we start walking again. Also, the second common question that's asked, you're not paying attention to the breath while you're walking, so don't try to do things like coordinate the breath with the walking or anything. The object of attention is the sensations in the moving leg, and just the breath, you'll breathe, and you don't have to worry about it, but it's not what you're going to be paying attention to when you're doing the walking meditation. So since we anticipate the two questions that always get asked, or if they don't get asked, they should have, because there's people who are thinking the other way, that they should watch the breath at the same time, or that they should note other things while they're moving, both of which are wrong.